Oh, yes. We need to take a look at the Q&A video after this. I haven't seen the video yet, but I want to see it. Oh, wait, I just want to see what King did. But before that, anyways, apparently, what does it say? From Young, yeah. Nintendo faces mass revolt, anger Mario Kart World players with awful update. Heartbroken by this update. Your heart needs rest? What are you talking about? What? Huh?
So if you go to Mario,
I'd be curious. What happened? What happened to Mario? What's going on?
Kart World's Metacritic listing right now, you'll find that its user score has gone down significantly over the past few days, and that's because we're seeing the game get review bombed, and for a pretty substantial reason. So you can see right here that the user score is currently at a 7.3. Prior to this phase, we were looking at like a score of 8.2, 8.3. You can see right here using Wayback Machine and going back to an older time of Mario Kart World's listing, the score is significantly higher. So what happened? What did Nintendo do? Well, they did what is a very Nintendo move. It all has to do with a patch that Nintendo released for Mario Kart World recently, patch 1.1.2. Among the fixes, quote-unquote fixes that they made, is that they adjusted courses selected in random when selecting next course in a wireless versus race. So what the heck does that mean? Well, basically, they took something that people favored because it was more fun, just a way they found to make online races more fun, and they decided to nuke that because it wasn't Nintendo's way of doing things, which has always just been a bad habit of Nintendo's. Now,
you know, it feels good not to support, you know, a multi-billion-dollar company, you know. It just feels kind of good, you know. I have that extra money, you know. I can go spend it on something else, you know. I can spend it on something a little bit fun for myself and everything like that. You know. It feels good. If I don't feel sorry whatsoever. I don't. If you're gonna make me feel sorry about it, I'll just be like, nope. You reap what you sow, you know. You should already know how Nintendo is. I don't need to tell you.
Now, speaking of bad habits, that brings us to the sponsor of today's video, Fume, a company dedicated to helping people break away from and replace bad habits. Code,
anyways,
you get the topper accessories, which help soften and protect the inhalation chip of the device.
Hey, I did say I don't support what Nintendo is doing, so I'm not gonna buy the console. Those people who bought it, that's not my problem. That's all I gotta say. Quit bullying the multi-billion-dollar company. My reaction to that info, I'm just like, you know, sometimes I like to kick back, you know, and just kind of watch, you know, the entire shit show. I'd be like, you know, hey man, people warned you how Nintendo has been over the past couple years. So, hey, don't you start going negative now just because they decided to change something with your favorite little game, you know?
For free. All right, so back to the topic at hand. What happened? Well, when you do an online race, you do like a traditional course where it's 3 laps, and then after that, for the next race, Nintendo asks players to vote for what the next track will be. So right here, we have an example image that highlights some of the routes that players can vote for. But among the options is random. Now, before the patch, what that typically looked like is this, where just about everyone selected random. That was the most popular vote. Why? Well, that's because Mario Kart World features 2 types of courses. You've got your regular courses that are 3 laps, and then you've got what people are dubbing as intermission courses, which are the courses that takes you from one circuit to the next. So it's more of like a straight line rather than a winding circular kind of situation that winds into itself.
The loading screen,
and the thing
basically.
is, the general consensus is that these intermission courses are just nowhere near as fun as the regular courses. The regular courses just offer more of a fun challenge as far as races are concerned, because you've got more like tactical swerving and whatnot, Whereas with these intermission races, which are kind of mostly straight with, you know, some curvature here and there, but don't offer anywhere near the level of like gameplay, engagement, and strategy, people tend to just not favor those races. And so in Mario Kart World's online mode, after you complete a 3-lap race, after you complete a regular course, you're essentially forced to vote on an option that will guaranteed take you to one of those intermission courses rather than a regular 3-lap course. What most people want to do is just skip to the 3-lap courses. And that's where this random button comes in. Prior to the patch, hitting this random button would guarantee, if the random vote was the most popular, it would guarantee that the game would randomly take you to a 3-lap regular course and skip intermission courses altogether, which is why throughout the course of Mario Kart World's lifespan prior to the patch, you would see that most people would vote for random because the 3-lap courses, the regular courses, were the preferred option by a...
So basically people don't enjoy like the intermission in between, like basically it's basically the loading screen. That's what it basically is. It's like the playable loading screen. So if I'm understanding this correctly, right, like people don't enjoy, because I'm not part of the Nintendo ecosystem, okay? All right, I'm trying to understand this. So they don't like the loading screen in between the races, and that's the reason why they like the randomizes, because it just skips it and just goes straight to the next track. Is that what I'm basically understanding? If it is, let me know. You must enjoy the loading screen. Well, apparently most of them don't enjoy that, to be honest.
Significant margin. Like, sure, every once in a while you'd see some folks selecting some of these intermission courses, but generally the vast majority of folks would want to pick random. People opted to pick the normal 3-lap courses because they're just overall more fun than your intermission courses. And so people were happy with this system because that...
Interesting. Weren't people like going crazy about like the intermission stuff? Like I remember when it came out and they debuted in Mario Kart, they're like, whoa, that's crazy, yo, that's wild, you know? Wasn't that a thing or so that a lot of people were praising about or something like that? What happened? What happened? Don't people like it? Don't you like it? Well, what happened? What turned around so easily?
At least they get to vote on it, and you know, the democratic kind of ruling tends to be that the 3-lap courses are better. But that's something that Nintendo wasn't expecting. They didn't realize just how much more popular the regular 3-lap courses would be versus the intermission courses. And what Nintendo wants is a good mix of people experiencing both the regular 3-lap courses and the intermission courses. But currently, the voting system heavily favors the 3-lap courses. But here's the thing, if that's what people want, then that's what people should get. Again, you implemented a voting system so that people with a majority vote could be like, this is what we want, and the people have spoken. But Nintendo was like, no, it's our way or the highway. And so that's...
I'm like, what do you expect, you know? Like, what the fuck do you expect? It's Nintendo! You're not allowed to have fun on Nintendo, remember? What happened? What's going on? Like, honestly, you know, sometimes you can just smell the bullshit from a mile away, you know? You can sometimes smell it from a mile away. But hey man, people love to defend their plastic box, you know? So their Nintendo Switch, you know, no democracy here. Well, you know.
That's why they implemented this patch where they adjusted courses selected in random when selecting next course in a wireless versus race. Now that random vote, if it goes through, does not guarantee that you'll end up in a 3-lap course. Now there's a chance that you'll also end up in one of those less popular and, if I may say so, infamous intermission courses. But the thing is that what people have found is that the random button, it doesn't feel like it's giving both of those like a 50-50 chance. It doesn't feel like it favors both equally. It feels like the random button now heavily leans towards those intermission courses because Nintendo wants people to engage with intermission courses. And this is just, I mean, it's classic Nintendo. They think they know how people like to have fun with their games. And so instead of listening to community feedback and implementing that in a way...
You think Nintendo actually listens to the community? You're crazy if you think that. They don't listen to the community. They silence the community. Hey, DJ.
That appeals to both the general populace's preferences and also Nintendo's way of doing things, where, you know, they could resolve this by adding 2 separate modes. One where it's just, you know, strictly the 3-lap courses, and then another mode where you have, you know, the mix of intermission races or intermission courses and the 3-lap courses. Instead, they completely nuke the general populace's preferences option. It's like with Super Smash.
I'm not really surprised personally that they're trying to do something like this, you know. I'm not surprised. It's freaking Nintendo. Like, what do you expect in general? Like, generally, like what are you expecting?
Smash Brothers. With Super Smash Brothers Melee, you know, people discovered all these meta elements and all these tech, like, you know, like wave dashing and whatnot. And instead of finding a way to work with the Smash Brothers community and implement that somehow and make that a core aspect of the gameplay, or have different modes where people could, you know, wave dash in more competitive modes and have more casual modes.
It's too much work, Young. Yeah, it's too much work. Stop telling the billion-dollar company how to run their company and their games. Stop it. They know what they're doing. Consume. Don't ask questions.
We can't do that. They decided to nuke that aspect altogether.
Hey,
this has gained enough backlash that it's not just reflected in the user score on Metacritic, where we can see some review bombing happening, but also you've got some like dedicated Nintendo content creators who are speaking out about this. So right here we have you.
Damn, even the hardcore Nintendo fans are talking about it, man. That's crazy. The shills, the defenders, the hardcore defenders, the white knighters defending this shit. That's crazy to hear that. Now they're turning against their creator or their favorite company.
YouTube user Shortcat, whose entire content base is basically Mario Kart. And even this individual had things to say about this. So here's a video posted on Twitter sharing Shortcat's impressions on this Mario Kart World update and why it's so heavily disliked.
Playing Mario Kart World for the last 3 weeks has literally been my job, and I've played this more than almost anyone in the world. So when I say I've given this a chance, I'm serious. I have given it a chance, and I just don't think that these intermissions are nearly as fun as the 3-lap tracks. And I just want to explain why. It's not as simple as the driving is not that interesting, I can't do all my shortcuts, so I'm not having fun. It's more complicated than that. Because I'm trying to win these races, right? So when you consider what is the best strategy on these tracks, most of the time it's to stay in the back, get your coins where it's safe, and usually you'd think this would be risky because the comeback is tough to make. But these intermissions have shortcuts that are so unbelievably big that it is literally just an advantage to be at the back, because I'm now guaranteed to be at the front at some point. And you can actually just win a race off of that alone. But of course, this is not true for every single one of these intermissions. They have varying lengths and varying amounts of shortcuts. But in most cases, the best strategy is still to stay in the back, because if there are not a lot of techniques that the frontrunners can do to gain a lead away from you, then that means using the comeback mechanics, which is the shock and speed items, right at the end of the race is so unbelievably overpowered. And so it's not just that I think it's not very interactive to play these tracks, it's also that the best strategy requires doing a whole lot of nothing for a long time.
So basically, it just takes no skills whatsoever now. Like, it's just like, you just stay in the back for like mostly the entire race, and then once you get the items, then you just completely go back, you just go into first place. Interesting.
And you might be thinking, well, if you don't like playing that way, then don't play that way. And that's what I'm trying to do. I picked the 3-lap tracks so that we can get a track where the strategy that people tend to think is more fun, which is, you know, going forward, is actually the best strategy almost all of the time. And when you put me on these intermissions, you're asking me to choose between having fun and winning. And for me, the obvious answer is to just pick one of the 3-lap tracks where I can have fun and try to win. I feel like a well-designed game lives in the place where you can try to have fun and win at the same time. Is that controversial?
So yeah, there it is. This is from essentially like a dedicated Mario Kart player who understands these games inside and out. Beyond the fact that the tracks are just worse, these courses are just worse and less fun, there's also like just the meta aspect of how winning the intermission courses, it's just, it almost feels cheap compared to the kind of more skill engaging 3-lap courses, 3-lap tracks.
So these intermissions are still considered as like normal, like a normal lap game or so? Like it's still considered as like a win-win in the race? Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, there's a YouTuber who has almost 800,000 subscribers, gets hundreds of thousands of views per video, and it's not just Shortcat, but also here we have Nathaniel Bandy, who's a dedicated like Nintendo channel with 1.35 million subscribers and gets hundreds of thousands of views per video. This individual also decided to speak out. There's a video literally titled "Nintendo Destroyed Mario Kart World Online" with a thumbnail that essentially has a paraphrased headline of "You will like intermissions," because that's basically what Nintendo is doing. It's just forcing this less fun mode upon people, these less fun courses and tracks upon people. So this is not an insubstantial backlash. And on social media, you've got Twitter posts like this one from Arid TV that has garnered millions of views and tens of thousands of likes, saying Mario Kart World legitimately just went from a 9.5 out of 10 to like a 6 out of 10 game with the smallest update imaginable. Nintendo truly baffles me. What a disappointing decision from them.
Why are you surprised? Why is anyone surprised? I'm not surprised whatsoever. Like, what? Why are we being surprised now? Like, surprise Pikachu face. Nintendo doing bad decisions? What? What? I'm not surprised at all. Like, not a single bit, bro. Finally woke up to smell the roses, I guess, you know?
The Mario Kart World subreddit was for a couple days filled with posts of people expressing things like how they're heartbroken by this update. I cannot believe that Nintendo has done this, essentially make things.
I can't believe Nintendo done this. I'm just like, yeah. First time you see Nintendo done something bad or make a bad decision? Damn, that's crazy, you know?
Less fun for players who have
Volt.
overwhelmingly
Thank you for the tier
voted
one.
that
Welcome,
the 3-lap
welcome.
tracks and courses are just.
Imagine sweats and tryhards at a family-friendly game. Hail Nintendo God for patching this out. W is so player-friendly. Yeah, that could probably be it too as well. Maybe they just don't care about sweat lords, probably, you know? I don't know, maybe like the top 5%, 10% of Mario Kart players, you know? Hey man, at the end of the day, you know? I'm not surprised. I'm not heartbroken. Man, dude. It just feels good to kind of like have like just playing video games for such a long time and like kind of like paying attention to like the video game scene in general and like the changes and everything. You kind of grow like a 2 cents, you know? I'm like, something isn't right around here, you know?
More fun, better, and that's generally what they prefer to play in a competitive online multiplayer mode. And scrolling through the replies, there's a general agreement that the 3-lap tracks just have the perfect pacing. They're more fun. They're tailored for...
Well, that's too damn bad. You will enjoy it, and you will like intermissions. That's too damn bad.
consistent fun and are better themes, so on and so forth. People kind of essentially paraphrasing Nintendo as them basically going, you're going to play rally tracks or the intermission tracks and you're going to enjoy them. Yeah, it's this forced choice but the forced choice is just, across the board near universally agreed upon as being just worse. It's a worse option that Nintendo's.
Well, that's too bad. You can't do anything. You guys signed the license agreement to Nintendo, so you guys can't do nothing. You just gotta sit there and take it. Take the slop, just keep taking it. Just keep slopping it down, bro. Come here, piggies. Fucking, you gotta get that slop from Nintendo, Man, I honestly, I just personally just like, I'm just kind of like, yeah, just
It's like you have to do the worst option because we like it that way, because that's how, in our minds, the game was supposed to be played. But the way you, Nintendo, envisioned this game to be played turns out to be just not as fun as you wanted it to be. You got to accept that and adapt rather than force upon people something that is just, generally agreed upon to be worse. And then the Mario Kart subreddit, you've got plenty of posts, with memes and videos that show examples or that make fun of this update. And then here we have another post from the Mario Kart subreddit highlighting how the intermission tracks are.
That's one of the intermission tracks? It's literally a straight line. Damn, they could have had curves around there, Shit. Look.
Howdy funny hag VTuber. Hope you had a fabulous day.
It literally looks like a skinny penis.
Just less fun. I mean, they're just one big line instead of the more complex kind of loop-de-loops that you see with the 3-lap courses that make for more interesting races that require more skill and that have, winning conditions that involve you to strategize rather than have these, very few cheap meta tricks. People making fun of the so-called freedom of choice, the voting system that you're not really voting on, because when people vote random, they expect a 3-lap course. But more often than not, with this patch, the random button, it tends to generally favor the intermission courses. Here's somebody posting a meme that aptly describes the situation. It's a classic Principal Skinner meme, but this time it's Nintendo contemplating, is everyone voting random because the highway tracks are bad? Highway tracks being the intermission tracks. No, it is the random button that is wrong. Basically, Nintendo fixed an issue that didn't exist, and in fixing the issue that didn't exist, created an issue. And it's on Nintendo for making the intermission tracks less fun. People didn't choose that. Nintendo designed those tracks that way, and unfortunately, while it was an admirable experiment, it didn't quite turn out the way Nintendo expected. And Nintendo's solution can't be to just shove that down our throats. The solution has to be to either fix the tracks themselves and try to make those more engaging, or give people the option to skip them, or rather maintain that option that was there with the random button that, because of the tweak with the latest patch, has been nuked into a functionality that people just are not happy with, because the random button was their safe haven from those intermission tracks that they just weren't having fun with and are still not having fun with. Here's one more Reddit post for good measure where somebody highlighted how with this patch, you cannot avoid intermission online now. And what's worse is that they choose from the 3 tracks already available. It is so annoying, I might not even play online anymore. And there's a post that garnered a lot of popularity with tons of upvotes and so on and so forth. And you can see how it works in this video here. And in the reply...
Well, that's too damn bad because Nintendo already has your money, so they don't care. So you paid $500 for this in an $80 game, so they don't care. You think they're gonna care? They don't fucking care. You've already lost the battle already the moment you purchased it, so... Hey man. Well, anyways, but even then, Nintendo has been down spiraling ever since they started copywriting YouTubers on YouTube for the most silliest shit ever.
Here, people are hoping that maybe Nintendo has a classic mode in the work that allows people to just stick to the 3-lap courses and tracks, but obviously we don't know because Nintendo is keeping us in the dark and instead issuing patches without notice that give people the thing that they don't want instead of reinforcing the elements that through feedback, it's clear that's the more popular, the more preferred, the more fun option. And so yeah, all this buzz surrounding Mario Kart World recently, that's what it's all about, and hopefully this gives you an idea of what's going on with Mario Kart World. And the backlash looks to be big enough that it might potentially kill people's interest in Mario Kart World's online mode, with so much of the longevity of Mario Kart being that online mode, that competitive aspect that you get to do from the comfort of your home with other people around the world. When that aspect feels just kind of, somewhat ruined, or, where the fun has been significantly kind of brought down, you might be alienating a significant portion of your community, Nintendo, the Mario Kart community, which is massive, but a lot of people are just feeling like this update like really nuked the online mode enough where they might stay away from it for a while, or until Nintendo offers a better solution. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is everything you need.
Sometimes it's just like, I kind of like sit back, I just kind of like sit back a little bit, right? I just sit back in my chair, just kind of just stare up in the ceiling, thinking about, I wonder what's happening in the Nintendo ecosystem right now. You just imagine, the place being on fire, because Nintendo decides to do something that the players don't want them to do. The players don't like it, right? But Nintendo says, I don't give a fuck. You paid money for this. You will consume. You will not ask questions. You will just consume. I don't have any. I honestly.
Well, sir, you paid for backdoor intercourse. You get it even if you don't need or want it. F them all the way. This is Nintendo way.
Yeah, this is the Nintendo way. This has been the Nintendo way for such a long time. I don't know where have you guys been, to be honest, in my personal opinion, but hey, it is what it is. Hey, you paid what you got, okay? All right, so you're just gonna sit there and enjoy it. So for me, I'm just like, yeah, I'm gonna go play something else, I'm just gonna play something that's a little bit more enjoyable. So I'd be curious. I'd be very, very, very curious if Sonic Racers becomes more popular than freaking Mario Kart. Probably not, but like, I could definitely see it being more enjoyable than Mario Kart. So, but yeah. Anyways, that's the end of the video. You guys can comment, like, subscribe, do all that fancy jazzy stuff. Do I feel sorry for the Nintendo player base? Not really, to be honest. It's kind of like, it's like, what do you expect? This is Nintendo. This is the new age of Nintendo, where literally like they'll charge you $500 for a Nintendo Switch, with the Mario Kart game, or like $80+ games, and it's like, and especially the physical copies are not even physical copies, and now they're doing like, now they're doing these kind of decisions or so with their games themselves. Don't be surprised. Do not have this weird like Pikachu surprise, face, at the end of the day. It's kind of like, it's like, I'm like, for me, I'm just kind of like, yeah, Nintendo is being sued for breaking Switch 2. That's not gonna work, right? But yeah, anyways, that's the end of the video, and peace.